Hello, this is Chengyi. Now our group will do a presentation about our project, Hotel Management System. These are the things we will talk about. Here are the team members, Bingzhang and Chengyi. This is the task division of our project. Bingzhang is responsible for admin module development, employee module development, and information output function construction. And Chengyi, and that is me, is responsible for main function development, customer module development, and functional function construction. As we all know that hotel management involves a wide range of aspects and complex challenges. Managing a large number of rooms and a high volume of guests proves to be a demanding task. To address this issue, we developed this system to enhance operational efficiency and improve the overall guest experience. And next is the explanation for each function. This is the main function. First, we will do initialization, and this function will be explained in Cheng Bingzhang's part. And then we will display welcome message and menu. That is these two functions. And then we will receive and validate user input. This function, int input check, receives a pointer of an integer variable and returns an integer. The return value is between 0 or 1, and 0 stands for invalid input and 1 stands for valid input. And finally, we will execute functional branches. We will switch the user input, that is choice, and the range of choice is 1, 2, 3, or 4, and 1 is administrator access, and 2 is employee access, and 3 is customer access, and 4 is exit to the system. If the choice is not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it will let out an error message. This part is micro-defined variables and custom structures. We defined a lot of constants for default values, system limits, and states, such as max password length, floors, room price, and these three status. And we preset the admin ID and password. You can see that the admin ID is ADMIN and the admin password is 123456789. And we define 4 types. The first type is a function pointer. This function pointer points to a function that receives the pointer of a string and return an integer. And these 3 types is similar. The employee and customer structure records the information of these 2 identities, and the room structure records the room details of a room. And then we announce 3 global arrays to store these structures. This part is unified login process function. This function receives 2 arguments, identity and ID. They are all strings, and it will return an integer. And first, it will let users to input ID and password. Then it will branching based on identity. You can see that if identity equals to admin, it will compare the ID and password with presetted ID and admin ID and password. If the identity equals to employee or customer, the basic logic is same, but the prompt information is different. And if the password or ID is wrong, it will display the error message. You can see that wrong password or unknown ID. And finally, if the login is successful, it will return 1. And if the login is fail, it will return 0. This part is input validation with limited attempts. Let me introduce these three checking functions first. The first function, password check, is to check whether the length of password is greater than 8 and the password consists both letters and digits. And the phone number check is to check whether the phone number consists of all digits. And the custom ID check is to check whether the custom ID already exists. And this function, input attempts, is to limit the number of attempts when user is inputting. This function has 4 arguments. The first argument is input prompt, and the second one is error information, and the third one is in user inputs, and the last one is the pointer of the checking function. This function will show the input prompts and that users to input, and check the inputs with the checking function. And it will asking for input until a valid one is provided, or the number of attempts reaches 3. And finally, it will return the number of attempts for further branching. This part is customer management module. Customers can do registration by completing the information filling and logging to an already registered account. They can also view information such as their personal information like phone numbers, ID, and their room number. And they can also check the accommodation information like what room is empty or not. They can also book room by this module, but they can only book an empty room, and they can only book one room. And they can also check their bills and do payment.
This is Bingzhang, and here's my part. So first, let me introduce the function init in the torus.hash. So this function gives an initialization for the structures, for the 3 structures. So to make the check and looping easier, after that we choose to set and default set, or just put none in the variables of all the structures we have made. So it's like for the room structures, for all the room structures, we make the default set, which is empty, literally empty for these variables. And the room number, which is like G50 or something like that, we just use the index to rooms function we mentioned above. And for the employee structures or the customer structures, we just put all the variables with none. And that will give an easier way to check and select them. And next, for the functions of view customers information. So through the init or initialization, we can select the entities of the structures that is already registered, which means we can pass the structures whose variables number equals to 0. If it happens, we'll just pass it. And we'll show the entities of structures that is already registered. And we show their informations like this. And otherwise, if there is no structures that is registered, which means there's no all the variable number of the structures is 0, And so we'll show there is no customers checked in. Next is the function list empty rooms. And this is the function for customers to book the rooms. So we will show the rooms that is empty. So how do we realize this? So first we make the start and end variables for looping. And we choose to deal with it flows by flows. So we set and for looping for manage the flow. So first we'll check if the starting room is empty or not. If it is empty, we will just start looping. And if it is not, we'll just skip this room. So for the looping, we'll check if the room status of end, which is the current room, is empty, or if the room number of this floor isn't exceeded the maximum numbers of the floor. And if we do so, we'll just pass the empty rooms for the final output. That is means when we meet the end number of the room isn't empty, we'll set the output. So there is two circumstances of the output. If the room is individual, which means there is no other empty rooms together with it, we'll just show this room individually. That is the starting equals to the end minus 1. Otherwise, if there is empty rooms together, we'll just show it together like this. As you can see, G26 is individual, and we will show it alone. And for the others, we'll show it together, which means they are all empty rooms from G01 to G24, and that is. Next, for the administrator management module. So this is the function to hold up every function of the administrator. So first, when we start this function, will lead to the login function. And if the login, which is in the tools hash, if it succeeded, we will show the administrator's help menu. So for the administrator, he has two functions. So first is to record the accommodations information, which is simply change the status of the room. And next is view customers information, which is the function we mentioned above. Then we can return into the main menu, of course. And for the employee management module, which is basically the same as the administrator's function, but we have a registered part for the employees. So for employees, they can register with their names and their department. Then we will show his ID. We'll form his ID with the department and the numbers of the structures. Then if the registration succeeded, we will show the whole information. That is for the login part. If the login succeeded, we have two functions. for the employee. You can view customers' information or view accommodation information. So the accommodation information is basically the same as the customer's information, but we will show the empty rooms as well. So that is all of our program for the accommodation management. Thanks for listening.